All
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it keeps switching.
You're live.
All right, we are live.
Let me see.
Are we good?
Yeah, we should be.
This is not another boring podcast. Mustafa through the police body cam. Judge Carol Weimer under the microscope. I want to thank Mohammed for being here. Mohammed, thank you for being on this podcast.
Yep. You're live.
I want to thank everybody for being here. Missy, Bustos, Casey, Tracy, thank you for being on this podcast. Everybody, I don't know if Julia, I can't tell who's. I'm going to actually switch everybody over to the podcast before we start playing the exhibits in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case. This is a new feature that we have. I want to specifically thank Bustos for making this possible. Bustos, I love you, ma'am. I want to see if I can bring everybody into the lives. This is a brand new feature that we're
Okay, Susie, say
experimenting
hi real quick
with.
so you can go.
Mohammed, can you see if you can put
I
the
could. Let me
the
see.
live into
Yep.
this is beautiful. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Missy,
Yes.
Bustos, Tracy.
Yes.
I can't tell the other two people. The screen are dark. Who are
I
they?
think it's Julia
Julia
and Dre.
and Dre. Julia and Dre, thank you for being here. I want to specifically thank Bustos. Bustos, I love you, ma'am. What you're doing, you upgraded our whole entire platform. This system is just about $2,000. This is the best system on the market when it comes to podcasting. It has a lot of features. It allows us to play the body cams and the documents directly into this podcast. Bustos, I love you, ma'am. What you're doing here is you're giving my brother, Mustafa Al-Jazari, his voice back. The voice that the county is actively taking away from my brother, from this family. And we're fighting every day. And I love you, ma'am. Thank you for being there.
That's what it's all about.
I don't think the camera is switching to that one. I don't know why.
No, this isn't on there.
So I can hear everybody.
Can you guys see yourselves on the camera?
No.
No.
So we're gonna stand by until Muhammad's fixed the live, and what we're trying to do is embed everybody into the podcast. If someone can check I can probably do it right here. Can go on the YouTube and see if
Shelly is saying that it sounds good.
it sounds good, right? It sounds beautiful, but can you see everybody?
No.
What do you? Okay, so what do you see on the podcast?
Just you.
Just me. Okay.
Wonder why.
I wonder why. Okay. Now, while Muhammad fix the live and see if we can embed everybody in it, we have a very interesting podcast today, and this podcast is focused on on one of the individuals that the police department specifically allowed to manufacture probable cause. Now, these are very specific terms. I'm not saying probable cause. I'm saying manufactured probable cause.
Later.
This individual painted Mustafa as a monster. And we have evidence that she lied about Mustafa. Now, this is a neighbor, Nini, a.k.a. Kim Coleman, a.k.a. Tanisha Coleman. She goes by multiple names. This is a neighbor that took possession of the kids after the vehicle accident. Mustafa Al-Jazari was involved in a vehicle accident. Mustafa lost his family in that vehicle. His girlfriend, her 5-year-old baby, 5-year-old Empress. Mustafa was in a coma. Mustafa was helicoptered to the hospital. This was a serious, tragic accident. Mustafa wakes up from a coma. In the hospital, they did a number of things. One of those things is they did a toxicology report. Now, no alcohol, no drugs. They released Mustafa. But the condition of Mustafa Al-Jazari was really bad. I mean, Mustafa was wheeled out in a wheelchair, barely got up. And later, we found out that the county, the paramedics, we have documents that they pumped Mustafa with 50 mcg of fentanyl. Now, this is a problem because in the hospital, the investigator engaged Mustafa in an interrogation. Now, the name of this podcast is Judge Carol Weimer Under a Microscope. We have documents, we have body cams that this police department engaged in police misconduct. Now, Mustafa was pumped with 50 mcg of fentanyl. The question is, how could you engage Mustafa in an interrogation when he's under 50 mcg of fentanyl that the paramedic pumped him with? Not alone that he woke up out of a coma, he had a major concussion. He just lost his family. I mean, this is a tragic vehicle accident. Now, Judge Carol Weimer ruled that this was not an interrogation. Now, Judge Carol Weimer was comfortable to rule this not an interrogation because the Commonwealth attorney sealed off the body cams, sealed off the documents, and this community is not allowed to really see what went on in the hospital. And Judge Carol Weimer is comfortable to protect this police department, protect this prosecutor by ruling out that Mustafa was never interrogated. Now, we have, unfortunately for Judge Carol Weimer,
No video on YouTube.
No video. Is there any video on YouTube?
Yeah, I think it like.
No, there's a 3.
What is
I
that?
went to your phone for some reason.
Now it's black.
Let me see.
It's completely black. There's no video.
No video.
Let me see.
I have video.
You-
Oh, now it's black.
Okay.
Now it's black.
So I think Muhammad is switching back and forth. So what we're talking about with Judge Carol Weimer, unfortunately for Judge Carol Weimer, we're in possession of body cams that were actively leaking to the internet that show that Mustafa was interrogated, and this judge has not been impartial. And he engaged in protecting a police department that engaged in police misconduct. Now, so we're going to be talking about that. We have those body cams. But specifically what we're going to be talking about in this podcast is the neighbor, Tanisha Coleman, that took possession of those kids. Now, when Mustafa was released from the hospital, the first thing he did, and his number one priority, is the kids. I mean, in those body cams, when you see him in the hospital, all Mustafa is doing is asking for his girlfriend, 5-year-old Empress, and the kids. He's asking for his family. So when he got out of the hospital, we took Mustafa to the apartment, and Nini saw the condition that Mustafa was in and said, I'm going to make sure the kids are good. Take care of your brother. Now, Nini, what she told the police is she painted Mustafa as a monster. Now, we're talking about the same Nini that Mustafa trusted as a neighbor, the same Nini that her child, her 9 and 10-year-old children come over and they're spending their spring break over at Mustafa and Dorothy's apartment. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. We have the Google Nest video from inside the apartment that we can see her children spending the spring break over at Mustafa and Dorothy's apartment. The day of the accident, the day before. So we have Google Nest videos inside the apartment. Now, those are relevant because the question is, Nini, the neighbor, is describing Mustafa as a monster. Now, this is the same neighbor that Mustafa trusted as a neighbor, and she trusted Mustafa enough to leave her children, which is a 10-year-old, over at Mustafa's apartment. If Mustafa is a monster, what mother would leave her children in this monster's apartment? This is a very valid question. On a body cam,
Screen.
is it black? Okay, we're having
Yeah.
technical difficulties with the camera, so this is a new system that we're experimenting with. So bear with us. Oh, the battery died on the cell phone. Bear with us. What I'm basically laying out is the introduction to the podcast. What do you want to restart the podcast? Is that what you want to do?
No, just keep going.
Keep going. I'm sitting in the dark here. So you just have audio. I mean, I think it'll be probably a better idea to restart the podcast. You have another camera angle?
Yeah, right there.
Okay, there we go. That's even better. I mean, you want me to sit here in the podcast in the dark?
Just fix this real quick while you
We're
Amar,
not
when
gonna
you're
do that.
Amar, when
Yes,
the
ma'am.
3 comes on your screen, it's
Yeah.
showing your phone number.
just the phone number?
Yes, it's showing your phone number when the 3 comes up on the screen.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we're laying out the introduction to this podcast and we're asking questions. We have the neighbor who said a number of things about Mustafa. And then in the same body cam, she says, I was not there. I did not see what I'm telling you. I mean, she tells Robert Drum a number of things, and what she's essentially doing is she's describing Mustafa's relationship. And she tells Robert Drum that Mustafa is abusive to Dorothy, but then she tells him, I didn't see anything. She tells investigator Robert Drum on a body cam that Mustafa has been abusing the kids, but then she tells him, I didn't see anything. Now, immediately, this is called hearsay. This is not a witness. The question here is, why would the police department, why would Robert Drum entertain an individual that's telling you, I didn't see anything? I mean, you're essentially allowing an individual to fabricate and manufacture probable cause. I mean, Mustafa is arrested. He's been held in a county jail for over 2 years in solitary confinement without a preliminary hearing. Amy Ashford suspended the preliminary hearing. So he sits in a county jail with no trial for over 2 years in solitary confinement over probable cause, over manufactured probable cause. Every individual in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case, we have evidence that they lied. Now, the question is, why is the police department allowing this individual to manufacture probable cause on Mustafa? I mean, when you listen to this body cam, the first thing you're going to ask yourself, why is this investigator allowing someone to say all these things about them and take them as a credible source when they're telling you, we were not there, we didn't see it?
Can people see you or no?
No.
You can't.
Nope, it's still black screen.
Interesting.
Is it still a black screen? So
Yeah.
I'm pretty much
Yep.
doing a podcast in the dark, right?
Yeah, it's
You know
just
how
a black
depressing.
screen.
You know how depressing this
Maybe I
is.
should reset it. What do you think? Because it's on here.
Yeah.
It's showing
Well,
up.
okay. Before you reset it. This was a beautiful introduction to the podcast that we were going to have. We're having
We're gonna need you to
technical
do it again.
technical difficulty. Unfortunately, I have to redo the whole thing all over again. You know how much energy this is? Thank you.
This phone died like midway.
That's okay. That's the least of our problem. That's okay. We're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. I'm going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. And if we keep reminding ourselves and telling ourselves that we're going to be okay. At the end of the
We'll
day,
be okay.
we'll be okay. At the end of the day, we're in possession of body cams, documents, and we're actively leaking them on the internet. And this county is terrified because you don't even have to take my word for it. Go do your own homework. And when you type Mustafa Al-Jazari, you're going to have the whole entire file on the internet. And like I remind everybody every time we're here, you do not have to take my word for it. You have a choice. You can listen to the Commonwealth Attorney, Amy Ashworth, who tell you, I'm not giving you any body cams. I'm not giving you any document. I'm not giving you the dash camera that's in Mustafa's car. You should just take her word for it because she's the Commonwealth Attorney. Or you can join this podcast and I tell you, you don't have to take my word for it. Look at the body cams. Look at the dash camera that's inside the vehicle. Look at the documents and you tell me that this is
You're
not a
there.
vehicle accident, that this is not a vehicle accident. They didn't falsify all the police report. They didn't turn a tragic vehicle accident, that every piece of evidence in this case showed that this is a vehicle accident, into a murder. You don't have to take my word for it. The evidence is all over the internet.
Your picture is back on.
My picture is back on.
It is.
So I guess so. We're gonna end this podcast. This was a
Yeah, well,
beautiful.
we're just see
Oh, you still experimenting? Great.
pretty much. I want to do like this. It should pick up this screen, but it's not.
Okay, it's not picking up that screen. So I mean, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about Nene, Kim Coleman, and we have a lot of questions for Kim Coleman. Through this platform, we are asking if Kim Coleman is listening. Tune in. Join our podcast. Reach out to us. You can find us on TikTok under Not Another Boring Podcast. You can find us on YouTube under Not Another Boring Podcast. Instagram under Not Another Boring Podcast. Facebook under Not Another Boring Podcast. And you can join the conversation. And we have questions for you, ma'am. What happened to the neighbor that Mustafa trusted? What happened to that neighbor? I mean, Mustafa trusted you enough when you told him, I'm going to make sure the kids are okay. You're not okay right now. Your family has to take care of you. You're in no condition to take care of the kids, not alone take care of yourself. I'm here for you. Mustafa trusted you. And then you turn around and we see you on body cams that you're painting Mustafa as a monster. What happened? Now it's interesting because your kids are spending the night of the accident, the day of the accident, and days prior in Mustafa's apartment, in Dorothy's apartment. You trusted Mustafa enough. I mean, what happened? We have an audio that's so disturbing that contradicts everything
there
that
we
you
go.
said to investigator
got it.
Robert Drum. You got it? All right. I think everybody's is embedded in the live.
Yes, they are.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Let me see.
Oh, this is beautiful.
You gotta
I can.
switch your audio
Yes.
to
What do you want me to do? Switch this to what? Is everybody coming through the mic? Missy, say.
Are we?
I heard it from here, so you got to switch your.
Oh, you want to do it really quick?
I'm here.
You want to do it?
No, just go to Bluetooth. Did you not set up Bluetooth?
So we have an audio of
yeah,
a
it is
phone
on
call is coming through the live, right? So we have what's disturbing about this whole entire situation is we have an audio, a phone call between the neighbor Nini and Mustafa's mother, where she describes Mustafa as the best thing that ever happened to the kids. Mustafa loved Dorothy. Mustafa loved those children. I mean, that contradicts what you told the police. You lied about Mustafa to the investigator. So we have questions. This community has a lot of questions for you. Because of what you told investigator Robert Drum, look at what happened to Mustafa. They've built a whole entire case on what you said. What you said, what the ex-boyfriend Glenn Ford said, what Amy Hodgson said, what 16-year-old Kylie said. I mean, every single individual that's involved in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case said, we were not there, we didn't see anything. We have evidence that they lied. That this county, this police department, this investigator, Robert Drum, went as far as falsified a police report. And he based it on those individuals. Well, today, 2 years into it, we have all those individuals actively speaking and talking on the internet that we have evidence that they lied. The focus is Kim Coleman. We're going to play exhibits that will show that she lied. And this is a matter of public opinion. The community is listening. This police department is watching. They're actively listening and watching. The Commonwealth Attorney, Amy Ashworth, is actively listening and watching. This podcast is here for this Commonwealth Attorney. If you haven't seen it, ma'am, well, now you're going to see it because this community is listening. And the longer this goes on, the worse it's going to get because this community is watching a situation in real time where there is no accountability. I mean, I can understand at one point you made a decision as the police department, as a county, and you based what you did based on certain information, and you thought Mustafa was guilty. Well, look at everything that's on the table.
I mean, as the information gets updated, as they find out the truth, they should re-steer where this whole case is going. I mean, when you get information that contradicts what Robert Drum was saying, what Tanisha Coleman was saying, what Glenn Ford was saying, what Amy Hodgson was saying, really they should update their information. But Drum is on the discovery report saying he can't hear the audio that Internal Affairs heard. And he specifically highlighted 5 sections in the report that did not match the audio conversation. And when you show him the audio, when he listens to the audio with us in the office for 30 minutes, and he's highlighting every single piece.
You're talking about specifically Sean Shelton with their Internal Affairs.
Yeah.
The 90-minute audio that's already on YouTube. Conversation between us and Sean Shelton.
Yeah. So when he's listening to that audio and he finds out that Robert Drum did not accurately depict what Mustafa said, and a warrant was issued based on those lies, I mean, that should have been immediately sent to the Commonwealth Attorney. Immediately. I mean, he said he contacted the Commonwealth Attorney and made her aware of he called it inconsistencies in the report. But what do we find out later in the discovery, in the supplement report? That they gave it to Drum, and Drum says, I can't hear it.
How convenient.
I can't hear what's being said on the audio. How can you not hear it if Sean Shelton himself listened to it and he himself highlighted 5 different specific points that should have turned this whole entire case around?
Look, I think we should all take a step back. And what you said earlier is beautiful, that this police department, this Commonwealth Attorney, who is a separate agency from the police department, those are 2 separate agencies. Commonwealth Amy Ashworth is putting out a subpoena for Glenn Ford. Now, we're talking about a case that she already had set to trial back in December. A case that was going to be moving forward without Glenn Ford. Now, last time I checked, this whole entire case is based on the star witness. Glenn Ford is a key in this case. They built a whole entire case out of what he said, out of what the other individuals said. This case was going to move forward without Glenn Ford. What happened between December and when did Commonwealth Amy just maybe what?
I mean, what happened was he came on a TikTok and he said that Kylie Clapp had come up to him and asked him to kill Mustafa.
There's an audio
That's what happened.
that he admit to a private investigator that Kylie, the star witness, came to him a month before the vehicle accident and asked him to murder Mustafa. Can we kill him and make it look like an accident?
I mean, if someone is saying, I was asked to kill this person and make it look like an accident, and then somehow this person gets involved in a car accident, a tragic car accident, with brake failure, okay? I mean, that should raise some red flags right there for the police department. You know, I read about another case where they said that they were investigating a murder, and the witness on the scene was giving them information to steer them like so far away from the case. This is out of Prince William County. It's another case that I read about. Okay, but detectives were so smart that they picked up on the cues of this person trying to steer this investigation in a certain way to like mislead them. But through their efforts, through their investigative work, they were able to identify that the person that was giving them information about a murder was actually involved in the murder. This is out of Prince William County. So they do have smart investigators. Now, in this case, this is a very clear case, okay? Someone gets involved in a car accident. It's brake failure. Clearly, it's brake failure. I mean, I'm looking at the data recorder yesterday.
I mean, the computer inside the vehicle showed that Mustafa's foot was on the brake the whole entire time. Well, let me put it like this.
Everything in this...
I'm going to end this podcast so we can go into details into this case. Every piece of evidence in this case show that this is a vehicle accident. And now it's been 2 years. Mustafa's been sitting in solitary confinement because the Commonwealth attorney is bringing up charges based on falsified police reports.
Everything in this case shows a vehicle accident, but you have body cams that show officers were already condemning Mustafa guilty within the first 30 minutes. Okay, now Robert Drum on body cam, which you're going to play, is saying, I want you to follow this guy wherever this guy goes. Okay,
we'll get into it.
But I'm saying everything in this case shows that police have come up with a narrative within the first 30 minutes. Investigator Drum has already made up his mind before looking at the data, before using the Leica scanner to recreate the accident scene, before he found out if there was a medical emergency, before he found out if there was brake failure, before he found out if something had happened. You know, I mean, anything could happen. This is a car accident. Your job as police officers, as a crash scene investigator, your job is to come in and put all the facts down. That's your job, is to gather all the facts. That's not what he was doing. We can see that from the body cams. They were not doing that. They were not gathering facts. They were actively tampering with witnesses, actively tampering with evidence to make it fit whatever Robert Drum had decided the first 30 minutes after that car accident. They were already deciding how this case was going to go. I mean, they've excluded very important information. You know, I'm looking at, I was reading about data recorders yesterday and how they're obtained through this specific type of scanner, a Bosch scanner. And it says that you have to input the VIN number exactly how it is on the vehicle. If you put in the wrong number, you're not gonna get all the accurate information. I'm looking at the data recorder, okay, which I can give you in a second.
The investigator.
And I'm looking at the VIN number, and there's question marks on the form itself. like, when it's an error,
Yeah.
there's a lot of question marks, which tells me, did this investigator not put in the right VIN number when he's extracting data from the SUV? Okay, I'm looking at GM and what data they capture from a CDR, which is a crash data computer. And it says that it specifically captures the steering angle. I don't see steering angle on any of the data from the Suburban.
How convenient. The most important piece in this case is the steering angle, and that's not in the Discovery.
I mean, that's the most crucial piece of this whole data is you want to capture the steering angle of the SUV right before it hit Mustafa's vehicle. Okay, they want to say it's a head-on collision. We know it's a T-bone. You have the photos. It shows clearly it's a T-bone. Robert Drum and Chad Mason are on the scene, okay, and they're trying to figure out how this SUV lost its front right tire. The whole entire axle got torn apart. They're trying to figure out how did this happen.
Well, isn't there a body cam where Robert Drum tell the other investigator how it happened?
He says the only way this could make sense is if she turned into him. Okay. Well,
We'll get into it. Every piece of evidence. If you can do me a favor, can you put the screen on this cell phone? There we go. I'm going to end this podcast with a phone call that we made with the defense attorney. Mustafa was involved in an active lawsuit from 2018 against the police for violating his rights. It was a civil lawsuit that dragged all the way to the day of the accident. It's one thing to hear from me. It's another thing to hear from the defense attorney when we told him about what's going on with Mustafa. We tell him every police report is falsified. Mustafa was beaten up inside the jail, abused, denied medical. And this is what the defense attorney is telling us.
that wrote the report, he lied on the report. We recorded that conversation.
I'm sure he did.
Yes, sir.
Frankly, I'm sure they all know that you sued the Stafford cops. And they beat your brother.
Can't hear it.
because They know that you sued the Stafford cops.
Yes, sir. You say you can't hear it? Oh, let me see.
No. It's coming on YouTube. Okay, I guess.
Oh, wait, you can't hear it on YouTube or you can? Oh, okay, wait. You can't
Okay.
hear it. Yeah, you can't hear it because, hang on. Let me take you off of, there we go. Now you should be able to hear. Okay, you should be able to hear on YouTube. All right, I'm going to play it again.
Go ahead. The investigator that wrote the report, he lied on the report. We recorded that
I'm sure
conversation.
he did. I'm sure he did.
Yes, sir.
Frankly, I'm sure they all know that you sued the Stafford cops. And they beat your brother up because they know that you sued the Stafford cops.
Yes, sir.
So Mustafa it's one thing to hear from me. It's another thing to hear from the defense attorney himself. And he gives you context to what is going on in the Mustafa Al-Jazari file. We want to remind everybody before we end this podcast that every time we come on this platform, we're not saying every police officer is bad. As a matter of fact, we remind this community that Stafford Police, Prince William County, Manassas Police, our sheriff deputies, our jail officers, they put their life on the line every single day. They serve this community. What we're saying here is the majority of police are serving this community. What we're saying here is we have files on certain individuals in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case and other cases that engaged in police misconduct, and there has to be accountability.
To add to that, I will say that when this lawsuit was filed against the Stafford County sheriffs, I think maybe four or more out of the officers that were involved in this case immediately resigned and fled to another state.
Of course they would. Of course they would.
The detective that wrote up the search warrant, this falsified search warrant to enter the house after the fact, after they've entered the house, he wrote up a warrant with a sworn affidavit attached to it, which was a complete lie. Okay, I mean, I have all the documents from the Stafford case where Westlake Legal Group sued for malicious prosecution.
I mean, this was over $500,000 lawsuit.
This was like 100% malicious prosecution. That's what Westlake Legal Group was suing for. Okay.
No,
They-
you can leave.
And those officers, they were telling me, the lawyers were telling me that they can't find these officers because they had already resigned, and one was in Florida, the other one was in Pennsylvania, and they have to get process servers to go serve them these documents. So, back to what you were saying, we're not saying all police are bad. We're not saying that, and we have to maybe constantly repeat that. Is that some officers, like Robert Drum, like Investigator Chad Mason, Casey Fines, Investigator Davis, these officers are clearly not doing their job. They're tampering with evidence. With Investigator Romero, who they praise all over the Discovery Report.
I mean, Mohammed,
He's the one that talked to the children.
Yep.
And the children are saying,
weaponize the kids against Mustafa.
they weaponize the children. When the child says, detectives told me that Mustafa crashed the car on purpose, killed my mom, and then fled the scene to leave my sister to bleed to death. If he hadn't fled the scene, maybe my sister would have survived. He's actively being told this information by the investigator that's dealing with the kids. We know from the Discovery Report that Investigator Romero, who they praise up and down this Discovery Report, that he did a wonderful job with these kids. Investigator Romero, what did you tell these children?
Well, we have a forensic interview that the child himself is telling us what Investigator Romero told him before he put him in a forensic interview.
What exactly? What are they telling these kids? And why are these conversations not on a body cam? When you talk to kids, I mean, Drum in his body cam says that talking to children is such a sensitive topic that, there has to be a specific type of person with a specific specialty in order to speak to children. What did you tell these kids prior to this forensic interview? Okay, and why is it not recorded on a body cam? Why are you having these offline conversations with these children to weaponize them prior to the forensic interview?
And what we have is we have the forensic interviews that will demonstrate that those children were weaponized. We've leaked them on the internet. We're going to take a deep dive into those forensic interviews. And
I will say
children, this is child abuse.
That's child abuse.
Yeah.
Okay, for children that are going through a traumatic experience, they just lost their mother in a horrific, tragic car accident. And for police to mislead them, to misguide them, to play into their feelings, only to weaponize them against Mustafa is the biggest form of child abuse. Those officers should be punished. They should be charged with child abuse.
Mustafa was condemned guilty the minute the police officer showed up on scene because Mustafa was suing the police. The police took advantage of a vehicle accident and condemned Mustafa guilty before they even looked at anything. And if anything is going to drive the point home, this is a video recording before the vehicle accident.
Not really, no.
So they're
Like a bunch of assholes.
the Algezars. They're being watched. They live off of Ondo.
Now, this is a video before the vehicle accident where Mustafa was constantly harassed. In this video, you see an officer pull Mustafa over, and he's actively coaching his buddy police officer about Mustafa and about the family that this is the Algezaris. They're a bunch of assholes, and they live, and he gives him our home address. Now,
And that's what Casey Fines was doing in Prince William County. So, Mustafa's pulled over.
this is before the vehicle accident.
This is
Mustafa
20,
was
I don't know what year this was.
Mustafa was harassed, targeted because he sued the police. So what do you think is going to happen to Mustafa when he gets in a vehicle accident?
I mean,
I can show you.
Here, he's pulled over for a broken tail light. They end up pulling him out of the car for 3 hours, searching his car. And this is a video that was captured while they were searching his car. Another officer comes onto the scene, and this is Deputy Taylor, who was involved in the raid into our home. And he says, he tells the officer that just arrived on the scene that this is the Algezari family. They're being watched. So he's giving this officer like this narrative that these people are being followed. They're being watched. They're under investigation, and they're a bunch of assholes. These are the kind of officers that we have to call out.
I mean,
These are the officers that we're talking about. We're not talking about every officer out there. because, we know that a functioning society has to have police. In order to have law and order, you need police. But what we're saying is we want good police.
Accountability is important in a community. There has to be accountability. And what we're saying, it's been 2 years, and under Chief of Police Peter Newsham, we haven't seen accountability. We have body cams, we have police reports that are falsified in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case, and this is not my word against the police department or the Commonwealth Attorney Office. I've got the body cams, and I've got the documents that are being leaked on the internet. I've got evidence that this is a vehicle accident, and individuals lied in this case. Police allowed these individuals to manufacture a probable cause, and there's police reports all falsified.
This is not a matter of opinion, okay? Like you said, you have videos, you have hard evidence that these police lied. They manipulated evidence, they manipulated witnesses in order to get a certain narrative on black and white, and they gave that to the prosecutor. We're telling the prosecutor, look at this evidence. Look at this evidence. It's very obvious this was a car accident. Okay? And Drum played with investigator Chad Mason took the stand on October 31st, 2023, in a motion to dismiss. And he said, I plugged Mustafa's dash cam into my laptop, and I know that's a violation of department policy. So he's admitting he tampered with the dash cam. The same dash cam that now they're claiming there's no audio to. Did you erase the audio? Did you tamper with the files? They're claiming that the camera cut off before impact.
The same dash camera that's cut off before impact. The same dash camera that doesn't have audio. You have a situation here in this case where the camera has no audio. The camera is cut off before impact. The vehicle is staged, is chopped up and staged. The vehicle, Mustafa's vehicle, was crushed and staged inside the police department. And they want to pass this to the jury and say, these are the damages from the accident. Well, you crushed the vehicle and now you're staging it. This is the problem. You have every police report falsified. You have individuals that manufacture a probable cause. And the bigger problem is when you talk to the police department, they tell you it is not our job. It's the Commonwealth Attorney, who is a separate agency that's bringing up charges against your brother. Well, the problem here is that the Commonwealth Attorney is bringing up charges based on your police reports. So if your police reports are falsified, the Commonwealth Attorney is bringing up charges based on those falsified police reports.
All right.
On that note, we're going to end this podcast. And when we come back, and we'll come back in just about 10 minutes, we're going to have a podcast dedicated for the neighbor, Nene Kim Coleman, a.k.a. Tanisha Coleman. She goes by multiple names. We have exhibits. We have body cams. We have audios. We have Google Nest videos that will demonstrate that these individuals have lied in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case, have manufactured probable cause in the Mustafa Al-Jazari case, and the police department stood by and allowed it. Thank you for being on this podcast, Mohammed. Thank you for being here. Missy, Christina, Bustos, Julia, and Tracy. I can't tell who the other, I think it's Dre. Thank you for being on this podcast. We will be back in 10 minutes, and we're going to take a deep dive into Kim Coleman, the neighbor that Mustafa trusted. What happened to Tanisha Coleman? Thank you for being here. This is not another boring podcast. Mustafa, through the police body cam, Judge Carol Weimer under the microscope.